And good afternoon. Welcome to Let's Talk Real Talk on Parental Alienation and Intimate Partner Violence, which leads to family domestic abuse, with Andy Martens and myself, Mary Auld-Kovacs from Ontario, Canada. I am from Hamilton. Andy's from Sault Ste. Marie. And we've been hosting this podcast for 3 years now, and it has gone pretty much viral for alienated, targeted parents worldwide dealing with the exact same thing, same allegations, losing our children the same way as a loving parent, never being able to go to their school, their doctors, or anything, completely stripped. This is so sad what we're dealing with today. So Andy and I have brought our special guest, Camila Gaskey from Silicon Valley. Hi, Camila. Thank you for joining us here. Camila is alienated 5 months now from her 4-year-old son in December 2023 and hasn't seen him since. She is pro se, which is a self-represented individual who goes into court to fight herself, because who knows your story better than you? I mean, it's very hard to find a lawyer these days who will support an alienated parent. And, you know, it's getting harder and harder for us newbies to understand what's going on. But what better way to do it with Andy Martens and myself? Welcome, Andy. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming
thanks,
on.
Mary. Always a thrill to be on your show.
Thank you. Well, it's our show. We've amalgamated from the Andy Martens and Parent Alienation page because we're getting hassled. So it's strictly Let's Talk, Real Talk. Both of us are hosting these podcasts. We know better. We've been dealing with narcissistic abusers for so many years. Mostly, we're in our senior years, so we've seen a lot going on. You being with the OLG, me, being raised with
Right.
the harness racing, gambling addictions. And, I grew up in that world, but not going there. We are strong people. We could have fallen into these addictions and stuff that our children are falling into after being taken from a loving parent. They're gone into drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling. They're losing everything before they have
That's
anything.
right. That's right.
So this is all enabled by the family courts because the children don't know who to go to. And when they do come to us and we say no, we know what's good for them. We know that if they're going to ask us for money and we know that they're going to use it for drugs or alcohol, we say no. We become the bad parent again. They will disown us. They will, estrange from us because we said no to them. We've got to educate our kids that no is a good thing, and they have to stop making it into a bad thing because we're only there to help them, right? So
That's right. And I'm fighting back on that myself. And, we can't always, this is what happens when you do too much for your children.
yes, we spoil them.
And
Back
you,
in our days as kids, our parents said no. If we mouth back, we'd get a slap across the head or something. But we can't do that to our children today because that's considered child abuse. But sometimes you have to look at the other side of it too. When they hit you, what does a parent do when these children fight back? They spit at you, they pull your hair, they do all these bad things to us.
right. That's right.
So we need help out there for these family courts to get educated. So let's get Camellia on to tell us about herself and what's going on. Thank you, Camilla. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah,
We are live. It's 1:10 Eastern Daylight Time, and in California, it's 10:10. Right
exactly. Yeah,
now,
it's much earlier
Pacific
over here.
Daylight Time. Yes, 3 hours
Yeah.
behind.
Yes, yes. I actually had to look it up online because I wasn't sure exactly what time it would be here when I knew what time you guys were aired over
Yeah,
there.
three
But
hours. Just keep the
yeah.
three in mind.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing me on and for giving me the opportunity to tell my story. I've been in the family court process for almost 4 years now. My son is only 4 years old, so basically his entire life. Um, his father and I barely knew each other, and I made a deal with him that I would stay in the state of California, which is where our case is, for 1 year. And then I would move to Oregon to raise our son with family and friends. But he wanted me to stay in the state of California so he could have a bond and relationship with him. I made that deal with him. But of course, the day after my son turned 1 year old on his birthday, I was served with court papers and told that I couldn't leave the state. So I fell into a trap. I knew nothing about the law or the legal system. In fact, I grew up watching shows like Judge Judy, and I thought, it's fine. We'll go in. They'll see that I'm a good, wholesome person, and they'll let me move with my son. And oh my goodness, I
It
had
was
no
the
idea the
reverse.
corruption.
The reverse of that, right?
Oh boy, I have been thrown in with the wolves is what it feels like. And I remember at first when it started thinking, that's okay. They just misunderstood me, or they don't see who I really am, and the judge will learn as time goes on, but it just got worse as time went on. I was the primary parent of our son for over 3 years. I believe it came 3.5 years when they finally believed an allegation. So before that, it was an allegation after an allegation being thrown out there. I was an alcoholic. I was a prostitute. I was involved in sex trafficking. I mean, the most outrageous things I'd ever heard of. And I'm disproving them to get it dismissed again and again, even though there's no evidence. It's just his word and me having to bring in evidence. Finally, they believed an allegation of his, which is he accused me of being a flight risk to flee to Mexico with our son, to live with my father, is what he said. So I'm very white, but I'm actually half Hispanic and my dad's Mexican. So it was like a very racist remark of saying he must live in Mexico and I'm fleeing there to live with him. I was employed as a teacher, working full time, had a lease on an apartment. I had just actually moved in to a new place with a friend. It's insane that I'm fleeing all of a sudden, even though I've been staying there for 3 years fighting, and I was actually in court that day. So how am I able to flee? And yet they took custody from me, gave him to dad. And in December of 2023 is when that started. I've been fighting ever since to try and get him back. And it's on and off again of being told no contact with my son, to supervised visitation, to now just video calls. I'm supposed to have in-person supervised visitation, but they're trying to tell me my only option is to have law enforcement watch me.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
saying, no, I'm not a criminal. I'm not going to make it an uncomfortable situation for my son. So I refuse to use law enforcement. As much as I would love to see my son, if I agree to that, then I'll never have anything else. And I'm not going to be labeled as a criminal when I haven't done anything wrong. So
They're setting your child up for psychological abuse is what they're
yes,
doing, so that the child will hate you. And they got the excuse saying, well, look what your mom's doing, making you do, come on, onto Zoom and all this stuff. They're brainwashing these children at a
oh,
very young
definitely,
age,
definitely.
so yes, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, when our phone calls initially started, we hadn't spoken in about 2 months time span. Prior to that, they did slap a DVRO on me because I was outside protesting in front of the courthouse and speaking out on other podcasts. And I got told that I was coercing outside viewers to attack the dad. So I got a DVR slapped on me. So dealing with that and now being told I have to have law enforcement to supervise me, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening to someone like me who's never had a record. I don't even have a speeding ticket on my name. I literally worked as my son's teacher before you guys pulled him out of transitional kindergarten and put him in dad's care. Now he doesn't go to school. He's stuck in front of a TV to play video games. And our phone calls, when they initially started, were lasting about 2 hours because he was just so excited to see me. And now they're diminishing. I'm lucky if I get 5 minutes. And it's because the brainwashing, I'm sure, has started. I know he's being coerced as well. Some days he says, I better go because I'll get some ice cream, or I'll get a popsicle, or Dad will let me play this new game. And I
Andy,
can't
turn
get
your mic
mad at
down.
it.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I believe the brainwashing has started. He is still really young, that I don't, it's being more objected to him by bribery. But I am hoping to see what happens. Hopefully, some good news. My next hearing's October 9th. I filed an RFO requesting for custody to be given back to me, or at most some more time. The holidays would be great. Last year, Dad filed for requesting all holidays. They gave him all holidays last year. I didn't get any. So I'm requesting, can you please respectfully give me the holidays this year? That makes it fair, but it's never fair. So we'll see what happens.
That is incredible. For decades now, parents have been accused of the exact same thing as what you're going through, being drug addicts, alcoholics, and yet they've never drank, never done, I got accused of being a crackhead, abusive mother, alcoholic. I've never drank, and I still don't, I'm 65 years old. Yay. And I can truly say, my skin's nice, my health is good. And here I got accused of the most heinous things. And I'm thinking, are you for real? And I got thrown into jail twice over this. And, your time may come where you're being put into prison. Who's going to help you? Do you have support out there to, if this does happen to you? Because you got to watch your back now, right? We always have. I still have to watch my back, but I don't care. I speak the truth. I help many people out there. I bring on doctors, lawyers, therapists, moms, dads, grandparents. We bring everybody on, Andy? It's just to get out there and say, look, we are here to help. We've got people that are authors that have written books, multiple books on what they've gone through, experiencing them. It's horrific. It is the most painful abuse a parent can go through, to watch their child diminish in front of their eyes while they're living. It's worse than death because there's no closure. You see your kids on social media, they're into drugs or alcohol, you can't go save them. I mean, we don't want this to happen to your boy anymore. We need to stop it. And, if we can be there to support you, we need cameras in court. Do you have cameras in your courtrooms? Do you know where you are?
No, we do
No.
not. There are
And-
signs everywhere. You cannot record. You cannot do photography.
And
It's a
that
big
is
no-no.
illegal. Cameras in the court system I am a big advocate for cameras in the court. No one better than me, because, if you got your transcripts, yes, but most transcripts are doctored. You can't, they take it out, or the judge would go off record. So there's not all that evidence. But if we had cameras in the courtroom pointing at both parents, the judge, and the two lawyers, those are the only two people. It's not to, publicize. It's for your own accountability and transparency, to know that you're not crazy. You did the right thing for your child. And maybe one day, our children will see these transcripts, and not transcripts, but videos, to say, Judge, you abused me. And
Exactly.
that's what we need. We need alienated children to step forward and say, I was taken from my mom or my dad. And what are you going to do about it now, Judge? You traumatized me. And not to mention, you traumatized my parent, my grandparents, my whole entire family. And this is what we need to raise awareness now and bring it to these judges. So if we could, get cameras into the courts, it would make everything so much easier, and it would show that the judges would have to behave. These abusive lawyers who are badgering children on the stand, there's no need for that. A good lawyer would be protected of the child in a way to keep them with love instead of hate, right? So they would promote the other parent and say, how about we give you guys every other holiday, you could be with your mom, or if you want on your birthday, you could have a half a day and another half a day. There are ways. They just don't want to do it. They want to cause conflict so that
Definitely.
the courts are making money. They're profiting
Yes.
from our pain and suffering and our children. And that's trafficking. That is
Yep.
trafficking. And taxpayers out there, just so you know, you're paying for all this. And whether you like it or not, you need to step up and help someone that's going through this. If you see a child without a parent, you got to figure out why. And when that parent badmouths the other parent with no evidence, but yet the child is really down low, suffering from, emotional, psychological trauma, they become totally different and an outcast in society. And, I've seen it. My own kids, after 19 years alienated, it's horrifying that I raised them to be loving kids, and now they send me messages to go kill myself like I was intended to. By the way, September is Suicide Prevention Month, so we're here to help these kids to get out of it. We're never going to trash them in a way that we disown them. It's to help them to see what they're into right now is what we were into before they came. We all got sucked into that trap. And so our children are enmeshed with the alienating parent to mimic.
It's just unfortunate to hear these things, because time and time again, I keep, I guess, having some kind of hope that, this is going to end around the corner. But meeting others like you, knowing that you're spending your whole lifetime in this trauma, is just terrifying, because I'm only at the beginning roads. And I don't want to deal with this for the rest of my life. In fact, the only way I get through it is thinking it's going to get better. But it truly is sickening to know what's happening to all of you individuals out there. And it's been continuing to happen. And nobody is intervening and stopping this family court system. How much further does it have to go on? There are parents I see on social media sites that are killing themselves because they've been alienated for 6, 8, 10 years from their kids, and they said, well, what's the point anymore? At what point does it take for others to step in and see that we have a serious problem here? And I just don't personally get it, and I'm scared. I really hope I get my kid back. I don't want to continue going down this the rest of my life, but I guess as a parent, you kind of have no choice but to keep fighting, keep going.
Right. I'm going to ask you a couple questions
Yeah, sure.
relating to it. Is my ex-husband was alienated 64 years ago to never see a father. He got his first stepfather at 14 and ran away from home, became an alcoholic, abusive bully, and all this stuff because he had no father for all those years. So if your child grows up without a mother all those years, they're going to end up hating women, because you can't take a parent away from a child. But my question is, was there alienation in your family or your ex-spouse's family at all? This is what we need to do, is go into the background to see why this is happening. And a lot of the ex-spouses seek revenge because we left them. There may not be alienation, but they are creating alienation by using the silent treatment. I will hold the child against you treatment. You'll never see the child again. I will kill the child if you get them. These kind of things are really out there. Judges are getting shot in their driveway. Where are these people learning this stuff from? So, I've got evidence that my ex-husband had no father to be raised this way, to repeat. So, is there any kind of history in
Yeah,
your
so
background?
I've kind of learned through this court process more about my son's father than I think I ever knew. And we have, you know, the attorneys that kind of want to dig into stuff, anything they can use against him. And when doing that, I discovered that his father had committed suicide. His father wasn't really involved in his life. His mother had custody of him and his siblings. And I guess they didn't see his father too often. I think he has a lot of personal vendetta against that, about how he was kept from his father, so he doesn't want to be kept from his
Oh,
son.
so he was kept from his father, and
Yes.
he doesn't want to be kept from his son, but he keeps the son from the mother.
Yes. And you
See
know,
that?
it's stupid because I never kept him. Every single time we had court orders for him to have a visitation, I would even make the drive to where he lived. We lived an hour apart from each other. I would make the drive to make sure to drop him off because he would have problems with his vehicle or he didn't want to make the drive. So I made sure to constantly, I mean, heck, I stayed in California for the first year of our son's existence as an infant just so that they could have a relationship. And yet, let's go ahead and alienate me, even though
Yeah.
I made all those efforts for him to stay in his life. I even said, if I move to Oregon, you know, don't worry about child support. Use that money so you can fly over or drive over and visit. Our flights from one state to the other is just a 2-hour flight one way. It's not that difficult. People do it all the time. And yet everyone's acting like it's impossible in the family court system too,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do that. So I do believe there was a lot of problems in his household where he wasn't allowed to spend a whole lot of time with his dad. And then his dad did commit suicide, and I think he has a lot of hurt feelings about that. I don't know all the details, but I do know that happened in his family. Um, yeah,
Wow. Wow. Um, that's horrific. And obviously he's suffering from some kind of trauma.
yeah,
I don't want to say mental illness because I don't know him, but there is trauma there. We all see it. And for him to traumatize you is to make you feel his pain. And that's wrong. You've been there to help him through those
yeah,
pain moments, just like mine, where I was forced to marry. And I thought, well, since I married him, I thought I'd teach him how to love, how to, be a dad, a son, because he alienated his parents, his stepfather, after we got married. He wouldn't open the door for them. And they traveled for 4 hours to come see us. I've got his massive hand wrapped around my throat so I wouldn't scream out to his parents that the door is open or something, come on in or help, or, it was traumatizing to be trained that way. And through my marriage, I didn't have kids. I was scared to have kids. And then I was told I could never have kids because I was contaminated by the Chernobyl, but I did have another 3. The the excuses again came, to hurt me by saying if I left him, he would kill the kids or he would kill me. I would never know what he did with the kids. That's what he's done. He's done the exact same thing that I got threatened with all my life. So there's a lot of women out there that are hearing it. There's a lot of men out there that are hearing it because it's a tactic used to keep you sucked in the relationship once you've gotten those beatings, those burns, the mental, emotional, psychological, verbal abuse. They will manipulate you into believing that this was all your fault to cause them to be that way. But all we want to do is educate them and to teach them that we were always there lovingly. So why are you abusing us? Why are you punishing us for keeping you? Let go. Let the children free. Let the children love both parents, because we don't want our kids to be like what I was married to. I wouldn't want anyone to marry my kids that are psychologically abusing them, because that's what they're doing to me, to punish me in order to get conditional love from the father. This is how it's happening. This is how these kids It's easier to hate a parent. I know, I was there. I was alienated from my dad. It was easier to hate him than it was to go see him. And I didn't have a relationship for 40 years with my dad until I found him on his deathbed. We have to understand that our parents are the only parents we'll ever get as an alienated child. So now I got it thrown back at me. I'm an alienated mom. My parents were alienated grandparents. My brothers, alienated uncles, cousins. It doesn't just stop at me. It takes my whole family wipe right out. And this is what's happening because no one could reach out to these alienating parents and to plead with them. Let the kid go. I want to see my child, or I want to see my niece, my nephew. So do you have family that help?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I have a really great family. They're all really involved in helping me. Unfortunately, they've also lost a lot going through this process financially, helping me with the attorney fees, taking out loans to help me with attorney fees. And I feel bad because I don't have the means to pay them back, but at the same time they're saying focus on getting your kid back right now. That's what matters most. So I have a really great family. They used to fly all the time to visit my son, and now they too are being told they can't see him by the father. My mother is actually reaching out to him almost weekly, saying, "Can I please travel there to see my grandson?" And he actually said that if she continues to ask, he will file for a restraining order against her for disturbing his peace. So my family is also being alienated at this point in time. And before, when my son was in my custody, he went to go stay with the father regularly, visit his side of the family. And now, as dad has gained custody, me and my whole family is being withheld from being able to see my son. So it's really upsetting for all of us. And we just want my son to be able to have a normal life. As simple as that can sound, it really is that simple. And I believe that if there's a parent that's trying to alienate everybody else, then that should be a sign right there that them causing so much isolation means they do not have the child's best interest in mind.
Absolutely. It's like putting them into a prison cell
Yes.
in isolation. They have no
Yes.
one to talk to. They say we do it for the best interest of the children. Well, in my case, I was there 24 hours with my kids. And after not being able to see them because of the status quo from the false arrest, I was cleared innocent. But the status quo kept me away from my kids. And in the court order, the father claimed he was going to work from 3 to 11. So the kids are in school from 8 to 3. 3 to 11, he's gone to work. Where is that in the best interest of the children not to have dinner, not to have them greeted at the door, not to have them put in bed at a normal time? I mean, he got away with it.
Yeah.
He literally got away with it, going to work 3 to 11, and then left the country and gave my children to his mother, who alienated him from his father. My children didn't deserve this. So these are all in the court order or the transcripts, and it's real. It's real. They will do whatever it takes to destroy us, and they have no qualm about it.
Yeah.
If you want, Camilla, do you want to read this?
Yeah. This is written by Christina Laycock. I'm going through a similar situation. The judge gave the father custody after him physically abusing one of them and psychologically abusing the youngest and getting them to hate me because of what he tells them. Wow.
Go ahead, answer that one. Let's see.
So,
Because is your son saying things like that? Like, do you know your son is in danger or
so
anything?
I don't know if my son's in danger per se. Prior to dad gaining full custody, when the father would just have visitations, he would come back with injuries. And again, I would call either Child Protective Services or I would inform the courts, and no one ever seemed to care. One time he came back with a busted up cheek. Another time he came back with a double fractured arm.
Oh my God.
He gets ear infections. I think he's had 3 separate ear infections, all coming from the dad's house. I don't know why ear infections keep occurring in dad's care. Mosquito bites can be, pretty small, but when you don't treat them, they'll get infected. He's had infected mosquito bites. Random bruise on his rib cage on the side of him. And like I said, just no one cared. In fact, one time when I called Child Protective Services, I actually got yelled at once they went to go investigate. It was a male investigator, and it was Thanksgiving Day for the double fractured arm. He went over to the dad's and then called me to yell at me to say, it's mothers like you that give us fathers a bad name. And I said, excuse me? Did you do your job? Did you find out how our son sustained these injuries? And he says, I don't need to. I can relate to that man because I'm going through divorce. And he just took it on a whole personal level, didn't do his job. I actually ended up calling around to find out that the dad said that they had went to an indoor trampoline place, and that's where he got the injuries. So I actually called that place and I asked them, were their names listed as having even been there for the day? And they were. And then I said, was there any report taken that day of a child getting hurt? And they said no. So it's a great excuse that they were there, but it did not pan out when I called and did my own personal investigation. So these guys are still getting custody even after you bring in signs of abuse.
Wow. That's a. Go ahead, read this one.
Okay, this is from Rose Lack. We believe there is a bigger reason for the dismantling of families. Civil unrest creates more criminal matters, which courts and government profit off of. Agree. Yes, it's all about money. Unfortunately, it truly is. Our kids are nothing more but a money sign to them. So who cares about the trauma they face? They're all connected. The judges, the attorneys, minors councils, even the visitation centers that you go to for supervised visitation. I've learned that they're friends with them. So everybody is using all these different loopholes to make you pay money.
Exactly.
Because our heart's in this. We love our kids. We will pay whatever it takes, and they know that.
Yes.
And someone actually told me their theory is that when 2 parents walk in, they look at the parents and they say, who loves this child more? Okay, it's mom. Well, that's who I'm going to take custody away from because she will fight longer and we can get more money for this. And when someone told me that, I was like, wow, it can't be this disheartening. But unfortunately, it keeps appearing by looking and talking to all these other individuals out there. It seems to be true.
That's right. And who knows better? I mean, we've watched our children grow. Some of us without their father around. I mean, in my case, I was married to a soldier that was gone 6 to 12 months a year for 30 years. I mean, any chance he got to be away from us, he took it. And so the kids craved his attention. And this is why I allowed my kids to go with their father, but I did not allow them to abuse me, to badmouth me, to gaslight me, to never see me again. That wasn't the deal. I raised them to be healthy adults, young adults, to only be shamed for the goodness I did for them. I mean, one of them even wrote to the judge saying, oh, my mom took us to Florida. Shame on her for spending my dad's money. I'm like, what? Are you for real? I took you to Florida, and I worked all my life. I made my paychecks were always 2-3 times more than the military paychecks. I ran businesses. My kids got anything and everything they needed, and I never complained about it. When he needed money, we bought whatever he wanted, whatever I wanted. Nothing was ever we never fought about things like that. But because he knew the abuse that we had to endure to have him stay in that home was bad. It was bad. And when it was exposed, that's when everything fell apart. And, you know, we went to marriage counseling. It was the worst thing to do. So, when you go to jail and end up losing everything, you have to fight criminal charges. You got to get a criminal lawyer. There's no way about it. You can't get out of jail without one, right? So it was in the tens of thousands to get out of jail. And then I had to get bailed, and my whole life was like thrown. I was kicked to the curb. I mean, you can't get any lower than that. To have your spouse do that to you and then make the kids kick you over and over and over. This thing's what they do to our kids. Wow, it's devastating. And to watch it for 19 years, going on 20, they were hanging off my arms. They were loving kids. They were happy. We did things together all the time. You know, I gave them music lessons, whatever they wanted, dance, baseball, football, only to tell the judge that she forced us into music lessons. And then the father slams the door on the music teachers' faces. And these are all, you know, proven that he slams the door in the teacher's face saying there'll be no more music in this house. Boom. So the kids would get cut off on their music because he didn't want to pay anymore. You can't recuperate the money that, you know, the children have been invested in. And these alienated parents are jealous of the children because we've given them so much love. We've taken away the child is basically a lot of people think that, but the child is a replacement of love to a lot of people, which it's not true. We don't love our child the way we love our partners, right? And our partners can't see the difference. Our children need to be loved, to be nurtured, to be doted on, to, you know, be educated properly, where these alienators literally take them from you and put them in a corner, and then they sit there, no food. How many children are dying of malnutrition because some of these fathers don't know how to take care of the kids? They just guess, right? I'm not knocking all fathers, but it happens. My kids became alcoholics at 17 and 18. And they posted all these videos on social media of them drinking underage. And, you know, it's got the dates there, so you know they're underage. And yet social media allows them. So these kids are new generation of alienated kids or kids going through divorce will see this and think, oh, that's great. Let me do that to my mom and dad. You know, so it's like the in thing to do. Let's trash our parents. And it's wrong. It's really wrong because one day those kids will need help and we won't be there anymore.
That's so sad because I'm still at the very beginning stages. My son is only 4, and it really frightens me hearing this type of outcome that you've experienced with your kids, because I don't want my son to go down that road. I don't want him to feel unloved by me or being told that I'm not in his life because I'm crazy or whatever excuse the father wants to give him. I really hope to gain custody back so that I can prevent him from this long-term trauma and horrible outcomes for his teenage years or adulthood. And I've met a lot of other moms. They're doing the same thing. Their kids are also really young. And what upsets me is that outsiders aren't intervening into this family court process and realizing, when does it stop? When do you guys realize that we have a serious problem here? Look, it's being proven again and again that when you guys allow this to ride out, these kids end up going through serious trauma that affects them for the rest of their life. This is just as big as several other crimes that are being committed out there. And this truly is child trafficking.
It is. When I got brought back to trial 18 years later, my adult children were now in their 30s, 34. My son in a Navy uniform suffered a psychotic episode on Zoom, trying to keep up with the lies from 18 years prior. He couldn't. My one daughter, the 31-year-old, said she didn't alienate us. We alienated her. But I got brought back. I was sued because they said I estranged myself from them. But yet 18 years ago, I was falsely arrested twice to never see them. So, they have become so damaged that my other one, she said she was so depressed, suffered anxiety, suicidal thoughts, can't sustain a healthy relationship with anyone or herself, she said. I had to sit there and watch this. That's horrible.
Yeah, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say for these poor kids of yours.
And it's not just my kids. It's like millions of them. I mean, I suffered the same thing as my kids did. I'm 65. I could deal with it. My dad, I made up with my dad. I got reunified with my dad. We shared a fabulous 5 years, last 5 years together, but he was in palliative care. He was confined to a hospital bed because he suffered a stroke. And after finding that my stepmother kept him from, I had a brother that got murdered. He kept my father, from coming to the funeral or even knowing about my brother being murdered for a year. When he found out, he suffered a stroke. So I got to go see him and make up for those, not make up for anything because you can't make up for it. But we started anew. And seeing him laying there, almost lifeless, he got to literally speak and say he was sorry. And I got to say it to him too. And then we made up. I played music for him. He requested to see his grandchildren before he died. The lawyer kept my children away from my father. This was all during the trial, saying that he has no contact with my kids, no communication. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? They're on Zoom trial. You're the one that's plugging them in. How dare you tell me that you don't have communication? So some of these lawyers on the other side are the ones that are alienating spouses to further push it to the max, to the limit, because they're not making enough money. Money goes in their pockets. Our children are worth $350,000, dead or alive, in the family court system per year. This is child trafficking. And you're right. We gotta, educate people out there to know that this could happen. We've got kids that are adults, but it could happen to our kids' children. Our kids' children are going to fall into it worse than we are, because social services will just come and take the kids because they know that kid was coerced to cry abuse and get caught and say they're lying. Why should they be raising kids of their own when they can't even, tell the truth? They're going to find other ways to alienate our grandchildren and traffic them to the pedophiles, to perverts out there. Like there's a lot of organized crime, and family court is organized crime.
Oh, yes.
It's 100% organized crime. I mean, I just spent talking to the Attorney General of Ontario, Doug Downey, and he was very ignorant about the fact that judges have the right to tell us we can't record. That's not true. We get to record our court cases. We can take audio cameras in there, or audio machines, video. Well, what do you call recording devices? We can record it for ourselves, especially when we're overwhelmed by what's going on in this court system. Especially you being a pro se, you should be able to record your own case, what you're going through. to help you remember what you just went through. And, then you won't have to get the transcripts because you've got it all there in front of you. And so anyways, when getting back to the Attorney General trying to, silence me into believing that we can't use video recording devices in the courts. They need to take them off in the walls. They're all over the courtrooms in Ontario. No recording allowed. I even had the police at the front desk take my audio recorder out of my purse, opened it, took out the tape, checked it out, took out the battery, and handed me the recorder and the tape, but no battery. So I couldn't record during the time I went in for a custody hearing. And it was shameful that, this is how we get attacked even before the case is seen. This is wrong. We are losing our rights to everything. And wow, all for money. All for money. I lost $1 million home. I've lost inheritances because of the divorce. That's why it was done, so the ex would get all of it. And these things we know, we see. So it's good for us to become our own lawyers, right?
It is. It's also a huge learning curve because you're left to believe that these attorneys have your best interests and they're going to advocate for you. And they do know the law and you don't. So you think they're going to help you. But again and again, they just take your money. And it's the same outcome as if they were not even there. They don't speak up when you wish they would. And they don't know your story as well as you do. They're getting the facts wrong, or hey, you're not objecting to what they're saying. It's just not worth it having them ultimately.
Well, it's not. My lawyer, after I was brought back to the trial, was disbarred 7 months before the trial began. Not even 7 months. So I had to scramble to find another lawyer. I mean, he got caught lying to the judge. He got caught. He was in cahoots with the ex's lawyer, trying to get me to lose so that they could share the money. He got caught giving clients drugs and alcohol. I mean, what the hell? And there's so much. And it's not like I could lie about it because I got the court case file and I'm reading it and I'm thinking, this is my lawyer. He didn't file. He filed late. He filed video games instead of documents. And, that's so sad because we have to pay.
Yes.
And it's a good thing. It's a good thing that I got to use legal aid. Legal aid paid it. Legal aid got upset because legal aid was getting all the complaints. Because I needed to change. I didn't like this lawyer. He would call me and yell at me, calling me an effing this, effing that. You lied. And I'm going, whoa, what the hell? Like, he was so different. And then Upper Ontario Law Society was involved. So, here they are. They're catching these lawyers now, which is a good thing. But we have to step forward and say, okay, enough is enough. I may not be paying you, but taxpayers are paying you. And I don't want my friends to come down on me and say, what the hell, Mary, I'm paying your court case, and which they shouldn't. So when we have to go through stuff like that, this is why we need to educate people, because these lawyers, they don't care about us. They don't know us from a hole in the ground, other than that we have money. Because who do you give all your assets to, all your information to? These lawyers. And if you don't give it to them, they will dig deep enough to get it all. They'll know whether you're bankrupt, you got, 50,000 sitting in the RRSP, or they'll take it. They took my home, they took my assets. I was a disabled mom.
They won't just take the money. They will actually give you advice of how to acquire that money. Go ahead and sell your car.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to pay for me.
Yeah. If
Go
you
ask
need
your
any,
friends and family.
right.
You know?
If you need any money out of the assets, oh, what do you need it for?
Yeah.
Really? How about to live?
Yeah. No,
And
if you need food, that isn't where the money should go. It should go into their pockets instead of feeding your child.
yeah, yeah. I was homeless, living in a shelter for 17 months while my ex-husband, who never was home, sat in my $1 million home that was handicap assessed, accessible for me. And he tore it all out, ripped it all out so that, the real estate agent didn't show it on the pictures when the judge ordered it to go on sale. I'm thinking, wow, shameful. That's very shameful.
I lived in
For
a domestic violence shelter for 6 months because I had nowhere else to go, no funds. And they were able to help me with attorneys and counselors and give me some, advice on how the court process worked. And I actually had a judge that said, you need to give the opposing party your address. I said, excuse me, I'm in a confidential shelter, cannot expose that. Not only will it be bad for me, but all the other women staying there. And she said, you're either going to give up an address or you're going to have to move out. So, you know exactly what you mean there.
Yeah, I did 17 months of it. And in order to pay back, I helped people. I was single. I didn't have kids, but there were a lot of moms in there that had 2, 3, 4 kids going through it, coming in daily with broken bones and beat up faces and guns to their heads. These shelters are bulletproof, and they're bulletproof for a reason, because some of these psychotics, out there are so dangerous that it's scary. And, we are grateful. We are lucky. And I am grateful to be alive, because when I was arrested the first time, the police officer that arrested me, his name was Andrew Thompson of London, Ontario, said, be grateful. When I asked him, I said, why are you just taking me? Why are you taking him for lying? And he said, be grateful, we're taking you to the cells and not the morgue. And I'm thinking, wow, so he's an abuser. And because they have been called prior, but they didn't arrest him, they left him there with me so he could beat me in front of my 18-year-old son. And this is how my son turned on me, because he had to watch all this. And that's sad that our kids have to, take sides like that, because they know that they will be punished as well. But to have a police officer say that, and then you're set free 5 months later because there's no evidence, and then you still have no life. What does that do to the, society out there? This is why we have so much homeless living on the streets, kicked to the curb, down on their luck. Judges holding back people's paychecks. They can't, they lose their jobs. It's horrible, horrible. So where are you going to go from this? October 9th is your court case.
Yeah, October 9th is my court case. Hoping for some good news, but I literally have no idea what to expect. I think whenever we have a hearing, it always takes a long time, and we wait eagerly for that hearing to come. It's been 3 months since I had my last hearing. And like I said, I'm requesting for custody to be restored back to me, or at minimum for the holidays, since I did not get any holidays last year. So I have a new judge. It got taken out of the last judge's hands, who actually gave dad custody. But I don't know what to expect for this outcome. Just gonna wait and see, and just keep trying on. That's all I can do.
Right. So I was going to ask you something. I just slipped my mind. But when you go into court, are you going to have somebody there with you for support?
So I'm lucky enough that the judge said at the last hearing for me to attend it remotely, because I am from another state. So I am going to be attending remotely for that hearing. I typically, when I go in though, bring family and friends. So this time I'll probably be, on the computer, and family will be nearby. So I can
Right.
tell them what the outcome is right afterwards.
And you are allowed to invite family and friends on Zoom as well. You know that, right? You could
Yes,
have
yes.
people watching there for support for you.
Yeah,
So,
from my experience, when you do that though, they never let them into the room. They put them in like in a holding room.
right.
So they never even get to see or hear what's going on. I don't know why they do that. Come on, just let them hear, let them be a part of it.
Exactly. And this is where you need to say, hey, my mother's waiting in the green room. Can you let her in? Or, I need my domestic violence team to sit and listen to this. This is your prerogative. They're invited. Public is allowed to attend
Okay.
all these Zooms, and that's what they're doing. They're blanking out people and leaving them in the holding room. It's wrong because they're not there to be a witness to speak on your behalf. They're there to observe,
Yeah.
right? It's different.
Hmm.
It's different. So they're being treated like a witness to silence them.
And it is nice if they're around to even just witness it, because as weird as it is, and I don't know how to explain it, but as soon as the hearing is done, you immediately go, what just happened? And you're trying to rethink every word that was said, everything that was spoken of, and you're literally found trying to almost like decipher it. Well, why did they
Mhm.
say that? Why did it go this direction? What do you guys think? And you have them to kind of speak of, and maybe sometimes I'll miss parts because I was thinking about something they had just said, and my family will kind of fill me in and be like, oh, actually they said this. And
Right.
it is nice to have the support around to help you, like I said, kind of decipher what just happened.
Right. And that's where audio recorders should be available for us
Definitely.
to keep track of that,
Yeah,
because it happens so quick. They'll be
it
talking
does.
about child custody and access. All of a sudden, they're talking about the house, but
Yes.
yet they didn't solve the custody access. Didn't give you any time, any dates, or anything.
Yep.
That's how they pull the rug right out from underneath you, and it's blindsiding, and it's so devastating. And I'm still, after 18 years in the court, I still get anxiety thinking about what
Oh
they did
gosh.
to me, right?
Hmm.
Because I'm thinking, oh wow, did you just literally say, you know you're a conniving, scheming, manipulative liar, and I have no doubt you set your wife up, but you get the house and kids and don't pay support until the house sells. And then next thing you know, oh, let's go to the home now. And did you get the real estate agents, Mr. Haas, to his lawyer? Like, whoa, wait a minute here. Get back to that stupid quote you just said. What do you mean he gets the house and kids after calling him a conniving, scheming, manipulative liar? What about
This None of it makes sense
it
ever.
doesn't. It does not make sense, and it's horrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here we are. We reached up to almost the full hour. I mean, we could talk forever, and
Yes. Yeah.
what we'll have to do is have you back for part two after
Okay.
have your hearing there, and hopefully things go to the best, because your son
Hopefully.
needs you. I mean, I know what it's like to have a son taken away. It's devastating to them. I know what it's like to be a daughter and have daughters. It's devastating to them too. So any child taken from a mother is horrific. And I know these kids don't want to badmouth you, but they're forced to it. Their hands are tied, and we need to untie them and rip that tape off their mouths and say, yeah, the judge told me I had to say this about my mom or dad, or the lawyer is making me say this about my mom and dad, or CAS or whoever. Because I remember hearing it on Oprah when she had the Broderick children on, 2 of them out of the 4. Betty Broderick, she murdered her husband and the mistress, and went to prison. She's still there. But one of the kids, little young Dan was his name, I believe, said that they made him say bad things about his mom, and then was cut off. And I mean, it's on the Oprah. It's on Oprah's interview with the Broderick children. So anybody wants to check it out, you could see that these kids are, no matter what it is, they're forced. They're forced. They're told. It's scripted. You know, if they don't say it, then they'll be punished. We need to get that stopped.
Yeah.
So, what's your last words to us out there, Camila? What would you like to let us know?
I would just like to say that I am going to be praying for some good news come October 9th hearing. I do all these speaking outs in hopes that down the road, even if I don't get custody back, my son can find these and know that I was fighting for him and fighting to be his mom in a part of his life. For all the rest of you out there struggling, don't give up. There's too many of you that are afraid and giving up, and I'm hoping to be an advocate and a voice for all of you guys to realize that if we all speak up, there'll be too much for them to have to silence, and they'll have to listen and do something about this.
Absolutely. Camila Gaskey from Silicon Valley, we pray for you for October 9th and your son, that, you know, you get reunified and that you got as much time as your ex-spouse does, if not more, because you need to fix your son to get him back to loving you properly. So he's got to be put out of the way for a little bit, not to alienate him, but let him know that your son needed you and he kept them from you. So we're praying for you.
Thank you.
And like you said, alienated parents, grandparents, children out there, never give up. Love your parents. They're only one that you have. And I know how hard it was for me, but I'm so grateful that my dad and I reunified, and I'm praying that I do with my children, and if not with my children, that eventually with my future grandchildren, I will have a relationship, because you can't say I abused them when I'm not even there. So, you know, until the next time, let's see, what do we got? We got today's Tuesday, Sunday. We have our September birthdays with Dolores Feliciano. It's our special. We have a shout out to all alienated children. If you want to add your name to it, please message me or Dolores, and we will be happy to add your child to the list on birthdays for September. Until then, thank you again, Camila, and God bless. Thank you from Andy Martens and I, and have a pleasant afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome.